Hey everyone, another day, another reason to be grateful for being alive. So today started out around, I'd say 8 o'clock. I woke up very tired and very groggy, and my mom was working on putting new handles on the drawers, wooden drawers, mind you, of our kitchen cabinet. Or maybe not cabinet, more like a drawer or like wardrobe, or I honestly don't know how to describe it. It's like a giant thing that holds a bunch of supplies that we use in our kitchen. She needed my help unscrewing some handles at the lower drawer. So I did just that. Now, when I took the drawer out, I wanted to look at what was inside because it was in my way of unscrewing the handle. And what I found was very, very interesting. It was family photos from way back in the day, from like the early 90s all the way to the early 2000s. My dad was in the photographs. My sisters, when they were much younger, were in the photographs. It was quite a throwback because, honestly, I was not alive during that time until 1999. And there was actually a few photographs of me in there, which was interesting to see me as a baby. And then as sort of a kid, like around what looked to be 4 or 5 years old at the time. I couldn't say that I exactly remembered or had recollected some of the events that were being demonstrated in those photos, but I will say it was extremely interesting and a bit trippy to see those photos of me when I was younger, because it's like a completely different person. And who you were when you're a kid is not the same as who you were when you're older. You grow, you change, you pick up new skills, you drop ones that you don't need anymore. It's fascinating. Well, anyways, after finishing unscrewing the handles and then rescrewing them back in with new handles, my mom needed to create new holes within the kitchen drawer, and so she needed the electric drill for that. She decided she was really intent on getting that done, so she decided to grab the drill and get going. But I was getting very hungry, very peckish. So I told my mom, hey, would it be alright if I made some pancakes? And she said, sure. So I got to work. Now, I used to make pancakes using a pre-made mixture, the primary one being Bisquick. But today, I decided to make them from scratch because I've made them from scratch before, and if I'm being perfectly honest with you, they are leagues better than a pre-made mix. And the reason why is because you can add these additional ingredients that give it the pancakes more of that creamy, buttery flavor that you just don't get from a pre-made mixture. For example, with this mixture, it was composed of self-rising flour, so I didn't need to put any leavenings in there, 1 tablespoon of sugar, half a teaspoon of sea salt. Mix that all together, along with a 1 1/4 cup of self-rising flour, and then 1 cup of milk, 1 teaspoon, or I think it was half a teaspoon actually, of vanilla extract, pure vanilla extract. None of that fake stuff. Don't approve. And afterwards, 1 egg and 2 teaspoons of butter that was melted and mixed in. You just lightly mix it, just enough where everything is incorporated, but not enough to where it's overmixed, because the more you mix it, the more gummy the pancakes will be. You need to leave them with just enough of a mix where everything is incorporated, but allow like the air bubbles to kind of incorporate it into the mixture, so you get as light and fluffy and tender of a pancake as you possibly can. And boy oh boy, let me tell you, they were tasty. I loved them. Yummy. But on top of the homemade pancakes, I decided, well, we should have a full breakfast smorgasbord, shall we? So I asked my mom and our family friend how many pieces of bacon they would like. Family friend said 2, mom said 1, and I had 2 as well. Fried those on top of the pan, and I also scrambled some eggs, but I did not cook the eggs. Our family friend cooked them while I was tending to the pancakes. Or actually, she cooked them after I tended to the pancakes, because eggs cook fast and no one likes a cold egg with their pancakes. But people can deal with warm pancakes. So that's what we did. A little coordination. All topped off with a side of coffee, and boy oh boy, I bet you could imagine, but it was one tasty meal. Loved it. And my mom and family friend loved it too. After we were done, it was time to do some research. What kind of research, you may be asking? Well, my mom is completely redoing the back room of our house, so we have it primed and ready for renting. And one of the first initiatives is to sand down the concrete floor to give it a really shiny and really polished texture. So that way it has a really premium feel. Now, of course, we don't have the money to afford a high-end sanding or cleaning job, or making it a shiny floor, or however you say it. So instead, we thought it would be better to do it on our own with a tiny little handsaw and go throughout each part of the room from one end to the other. We came to this conclusion by talking to Google's Gemini chatbot, which helped us reach that conclusion. When it comes to chatbots, as long as they're used for practical purposes, like trying to get good information out of them, then I think they're pretty darn good. Of course, human help is always more preferred, but in a pinch, it works well. It's like the sugar substitute of the interaction world, I guess you could say. Like the stevia or maybe not stevia, the aspartame. But anyways, and human interaction is the sugar. We decided it would be a good idea to go to a hardware store to pick up some sanding down supplies, because it turns out that, well, we did a lot of shopping for a handheld sanding down device, polisher. Turns out we already had one at home. We just needed the supplies that would allow us to use it. And so right before we did our shopping, we were exhausted because we actually did a whole lot of research on various different drills and bits and pieces to use. So me and my mom, we took a nap in our own rooms to sort of calm down from the mental maelstrom of information. But after we were done, we drove over to that hardware store. We found what we were looking for. And then, as a treat, we went and got frozen yogurt. I got mine with a cake mix flavor, a coffee flavor, and a cookies and cream and caramel pretzel flavor, all put together with cookie stick, Oreo cookie, Recess pieces, chocolate and pretzel, or chocolate covered pretzels, or pretzel covered, wait, no, yes, I got it right the first time, and a dash of crushed graham crackers. It was very tasty. And as we were eating, me and my mom got into a conversation in the stand about how my mom apparently used to work for a company called Penguin, I think, and how it used to provide delicious snacks for people, but sadly, Penguin is no longer with us. It went bankrupt in around the early 90s. Rest in peace. Then we drove back home, and I spent a good while outside in the back next to the pool, meditating and chilling out. Afterwards, I pulled the pool vacuum out and took out all of the debris inside of it and gave it a good wash before putting it back in the pool vacuum and throwing the pool vacuum back into the pool. Then afterwards, it was dinner time. So when I got inside the house, we had a delicious beef stew with peas. It was tasty. Then our family friend needed to take a rest, and so me and my mom watched videos on quantum computing. And I gotta be honest, it was extremely confusing and really hard to understand what was going on. I'd have to really pay attention and really think about what I'm watching when I watch people explain quantum computing, because that stuff is rocket science. My feeble mind cannot comprehend such orders of magnitude of information. It was crazy. But anyways, after we were done with our little quantum show, it was time to watch the live action Lilo and Stitch movie. So we did just that. We drove over to the nearest cinema, and luckily my sister was there to watch the film with us. It was me, my mom, my sister, and our family friend. Then when we arrived, we got signed in with our tickets, and my sister arrived a little late, but just in time to see us enter the establishment. Then we all got our seats and we watched this film. We watched the 3D showing, by the way. I will say the 3D showing was pretty interesting. It was kind of cool seeing the depth within the film, I would say. I will also mention, though, if it were up to me, I feel like the 3D glasses thing should be a bit different. So they have the 3D glasses resting on the bridge of your nose right here and on the sides of your ears. And I gotta be honest, after about an hour, the bridge of my nose did feel like it was getting weighed down, and I'm not a guy who normally wears glasses, so that was a slight nuisance for me. I was able to tune it out for the most part, but it was something to consider. if it were up to me, I would have like the 3D glasses be like this headband you put over, and then like the glasses are like spectacles you put down, so that way it doesn't rest on the bridge of your nose, and instead it's like a headband over your head, and the glasses like can just flip up and flip down. So in case you need to use the restroom and you don't want to have the glasses like see-through glasses, you can flip them up. I think that would be a better design, more elegant design, personally. Maybe I should pitch that. Well, anyways, after the film, we all agreed it was very cute. My personal opinions on the movie are that I feel like, I'm glad they changed a lot from the original, and it kind of makes it its own story. So the original film can be its own thing, and this remake can kind of be its own thing, but at the end of the day, you're begging for comparisons when you make a remake of an original film. And the thing is, of course, I'm always going to love the original much better. In my opinion, I feel like the way this movie was edited was a little jumpy. Like, I just think, like, it was too, I don't know, like, fast, like, with how it was cutting from different scenes and, like, music and things. And it felt a bit of rushy, I would say. I appreciate a lot of aspects of what they included in the film. Spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen it, but I did like that they addressed a few issues within the film, like how in the cartoon the aliens need to disguise themselves, but they put on like these disguises that ultimately just look really goofy, but it works in a cartoon version because your brain accepts that people would accept them looking weird because everyone looks like a cartoon, so it doesn't go over the uncanny valley. But when it comes to a live action film, when you look at these cartoon aliens in a live setting, the way they move, it just looks really, I don't know, it would look off. Like, I don't think humans would accept like these big hulking weird looking alien creatures walking around, unless of course like they looked exactly like people. And so I think they did a good job cleverly disguising like the aliens as like just real people, using like holographic technology. That was a smarter decision, I would say. And I did like at the end when like Stitch seemed like he was almost gonna die, and like they did use that whole like thing from the original movie where the water would interfere with his molecular density, which means like he'll be really heavy and will drown if he's in water. And they did a really good job working around that idea by having a really interesting and neat way to end the film that really was attempted to be an emotional conclusion to the story that was unique and different enough from the original, and I did appreciate that. Of course, though, at the end of the day, it's a remake, so its intentions aren't as pure as the first original film. The original film was made with like pure intentions of making this unique story about like an alien who crash lands on Hawaii and interferes with this family and learns that family is the most important thing of all. And we see that demonstrated with purity, intent, and deliberateness in the original film. In this new one, though, because it's live action, they and also the original film has managed to stay throughout the ages and been passed down by, family to family from when it was released in 2002 to now, and it's still a really, really good movie. And like, I watched it all the time when I was a kid. I love the original Lilo and Stitch. Like, I think it's an awesome film. Like, it's got great music, it's got great acting, it's got great pacing, and it's got a really solid story, I would say. This one, it's like an imitation version of the original Lilo and Stitch. Like, it has a lot of the elements that you'd say, yeah, that works for that, but for this, there's something off about it that it's hard to really articulate. Like the acting, in my opinion, is not as convincing as the original Lilo and Stitch. The except for, of course, Stitch, but hey, that's a given because the original director came back to voice the characters, so you would hope that it would still sound as decent as or good as the original. But then they changed some characters, like the Gumbo or Goomba, or I forget the big alien with the multiple eyes name, but the guy that talks like this, or I don't know how to do his accent. Experiment 626. Yes, I am Russian. I'm trying, anyways. Yeah, but that guy. Sadly, the voice actor for that guy died a long time ago. And of course, with it being a modern remake, they want to have that star power to get butts in theater seats that would have otherwise not seen the movie. So, like, let's get Zach Galifianakis, I think is his. Yes, Zach Galifianakis. And I don't know who played Pleakley. I think the guy who did Pleakley did a decent enough job. I don't know what happened to the original voice actor for Pleakley. I don't know if he's dead too, or if he's just retired, or if he... Like, I don't think I've heard that voice actor in a long time, honestly. Like, I don't know where he's been or what he's been up to, but... Yeah, I mean... Those characters are basically completely different now. Well, Pleakley's mostly the same. The guy, the Jumba, I think is his name. He's the most changed. He went from like this guy who just is really proud of his invention, and kind of has this weird sort of fatherly attachment to him, but also at the same time still sees him as sort of a, experiment. But there's a part of him you can tell that kind of appreciates his work, to someone who kind of just celebrates his own ego and his own, inflated self-brilliance. And obviously they wanted that guy to be like the new villain, so that's why they made him so unlikable. But I don't know. I know it's because I grew up with the original, so I'm always going to love the original more than this one. But I feel like the idea of having like that kind of somewhat fatherly figure, even though like he says you don't have one in the original film, like, but he ends up pulling through and being a decent guy anyways in the end. I don't know. I like that. Like, it shows that even like the originator for Stitch can turn a new leaf, but. I guess they just really didn't want to show that big, ginormous guy from the original film who would have been the climax for this film. I guess they would have thought that would have been too hard to portray in film, or maybe it would have made the budget too much, or I don't know what the reason they kept that ginormous, like, elephant-footed guy out of it in this film, but whatever the reason, I don't know. I thought it was a cool villain, and it's kind of a shame that he's not in there, and I think they could have done him, but oh well. Overall, though, I'm gonna give a good break for Lilo because I mean, it's the girl's first role, and so she's like, of course, she's a kid, and most kid actors aren't always going to be, hitting it off the bat like all the time, so I excuse that. And Yeah, but I mean, but then again, you think about the original kid voice actor for Lilo, and I know it you shouldn't really complain about a kid's performance because they're a kid, right? But then I think about the performance of the kid who did Lilo in the original movie, and it's just filled with so much emotional depth and weight, and it really makes you care about Lilo, like her performance in the original. I forget who played her, but that girl's performance was killer in that film, and in this one, this girl's is, you know, um, she did the best she could. I'll say that much. Yeah. And Nani. I got that. It was, I'm just nostalgic for the original, so I really like Nani's portrayal, and obviously she was voiced by a really seasoned voice actor, who had been in the entertainment industry for a long time, so she was able to hit those emotional highs to really, make her performance feel very powerful and impactful, and I loved that about the original. And this one, they know, like, oh, she has to be someone in their early 20s who has to take care of Lilo. So we have to get a lady actor who fits that description. And of course, someone who's in their early 20s in the modern day age is not going to have as much experience as someone who voiced the character in 2002, who was probably a bit older and had more experience in acting. So, I give them the benefit of the doubt. But overall, all this to say, it was a okay movie. I'm definitely not gonna watch it again. I feel like once was just enough in terms of what I was expecting to get and what I got. If I'm ever gonna revisit the story, I'm definitely going to revisit it through the um, animated version, which I do own on Blu-ray, by the way, because apparently Disney edited the Blu-ray or the movie Lilo and Stitch there's this scene where she's hiding in a dryer in the original version, and she thinks she's tricked her sister, but then her sister, tricks her by putting her in a towel and carrying her away. But in recent re-releases on Disney Plus, they edited that part and turned it into a regular drawer. And like, I get it why they did that, because they probably were worried children were going to imitate, like, Lilo going into an oven. But honestly, I just think that's ridiculous. Like, I don't think kids are that stupid. I watched the film when I was a kid, and I didn't really look at Lilo doing that and thinking, ooh, I should go into a dryer too and hide in there. Surely no one will turn it on. Like, I mean, it sounds really dumb and ridiculous, and it is. And that's just too much PC policing going on, in my opinion. But anyways, yeah, that's the reason why I have the disc version. I know that version is never going to get messed with, because I'm always going to have it in my collection, and I know that it's going to be the same film I enjoyed when I was a kid. And there you go. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about the film. I'd give it like a solid. I give it like a 6 out of 10, and the 6 is really just for a lot of the more unique and interesting elements they put in the film that made it like different from the original and kind of gave it somewhat of its own voice. But overall, yeah, the original, in my opinion, it's like a solid 9 to a 10 film. I could rewatch that one endlessly over and over again because of how well made it is. Moving on. When we got home, before having a group hug with my mom, my family friend, and my sister, before I parted with my sister. She got in her car, I got in with our family friend and my mom, and we drove back to home. When I got into my room, I got on my more comfy clothes because I'm going to be sleeping very soon. But before I punched out, I overheard our family friend was going to put meat in the fridge, but she was putting it in a big blue pan, and I was gonna walk up and say, "Hey, we should put that in a separate container, because if we put it in the big blue pan, A, that's gonna take up a lot of space in the fridge, and B, that's a pan we could have used to cook food." And she said, "Oh, so you want to wash the dishes too?" And I looked at the dishes, and it's pretty full, and I gotta be honest, I'm gonna crash as soon as I'm done recording this. Like, I'm tired, and I have to be at work, or I get to be at work tomorrow from 12 to 9. So I definitely did not have it in me to do those dishes. So there you go. But anyways, I think that is it. After that whole confrontation, and agreeingness, whatever you call it, I went into my room, and I hit the record button, and here you are. This is the update for the day, and it has reached its conclusion. Thank you ever so much for watching, and have yourself a fantastic night. Good night, everybody. Take care.